All right, let's dive in, shall we?
Yeah.
Today, we're going to crack open Exodus chapter 12.
Exodus chapter 12.
Yeah, you know,
The plagues.
the plagues, the dramatic escape from Egypt,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some fascinating sources, actually, from My Christian Space to kind of unpack.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is, you know, it's not just an ancient story.
Right.
It's like we're going to see how all these events speak to these, like, universal ideas about change, sacrifice, and, you know.
Freedom. The pursuit of freedom.
That's it. Yeah, the pursuit of freedom.
And it's amazing how this chapter, I think, blends the practical, like, you know, establishing a calendar with, like, the deeply spiritual.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to uncover some fascinating insights that are surprisingly relevant to your life today.
Oh, I'm intrigued. All right, let's jump right in.
Okay.
Exodus starts by establishing the month of Aviv, meaning spring, as the beginning of the year. That's interesting because spring is all about new beginnings, right? Renewal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fresh start.
It's not just about marking time, but aligning with these natural cycles.
Yeah.
It suggests that we all have the potential for transformation, for a fresh start.
I like that.
Just like spring brings new life,
Yeah.
we have that capacity for change within us.
Okay, so Exodus 12.3 to 5 talks about choosing a lamb for redemption.
Right.
Has to be a year old,
Mm-hmm.
and the Hebrew word for year, shana, also means change.
Yes.
There's a powerful connection there, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It emphasizes that redemption isn't passive.
Yeah.
It requires active change.
Okay.
Letting go of the old to embrace the new.
Oh, okay.
It's about making a conscious decision to move towards something better.
It's not just a private transformation either, right?
Right.
Because the text uses the word kawal for assembly, which is a word rooted in the idea of witnesses.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What do you think that adds to the story?
I think it suggests that we're called to be more than just observers of this event. We're invited to actively participate in our own redemption, to recognize the transformative power at work, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
And to bear witness to the changes happening around us.
Yes.
Okay, now let's get into the Passover ritual itself.
Yeah.
Exodus 12.610 goes into detail about preparing and eating the lamb-roasted, unleavened bread, bitter herbs. It's more than just a meal, isn't it?
Right. The details matter here.
Okay.
Eating with the belt fastened, shoes on, staff in hand.
Yeah.
It speaks to a sense of readiness, urgency, almost like they're about to set off on a journey.
Oh, wow.
It reminds us that we need to be prepared for change, for the challenges and opportunities that life throws our way.
You know that image of the blood on the doorposts?
Yeah.
Chilling, but
Yeah.
deeply symbolic.
It is unsettling.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, it reminds us that sometimes difficult choices are necessary for survival.
Right.
In ancient times, it was a literal marker. Today, I think our doorposts are the boundaries we set, the values we stand by.
I see.
They might be less visible, but they're just as crucial in protecting us from things that might harm us.
So it's about making choices that protect our well-being.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of things do you think we need to be setting boundaries against today?
I think it could be anything that threatens our peace, our integrity, or our growth. Bad relationships, unhealthy habits, even toxic ideologies.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's about recognizing what doesn't serve us
Yeah.
and having the courage to say no to it.
Exodus 12.1113 introduces the destroyer, this angel of judgment that really brings, the weight of choices into focus.
It's a stark reminder that actions have consequences. There's a real tension here, isn't there?
Yeah.
The weight of consequences on the one hand and the possibility of mercy on the other.
Right.
I think that's something we all grapple with in our own lives.
Yeah.
Making choices, knowing they matter, but also hoping for some grace when we stumble.
It's a reminder that we're not alone in navigating those challenges. Then we move from judgment to celebration with the establishment of Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread in Exodus 12.1/320. What's the significance of, removing leaven and eating unleavened bread?
Leaven, in this context, represents those things that weigh us down.
Okay.
Negativity, limiting belief, bad habits.
So removing it is an act of cleansing, like
Creating space.
creating space for something new.
So it's a symbolic way of saying we're leaving behind those things that hold us back and embracing a fresh start.
Exactly.
And it's not just about personal change, right? Because it says that this celebration was open to all inhabitants, regardless of origin.
Yes.
This speaks to, the inclusive nature of God's covenant, this idea of unity and belonging. That's a powerful message, especially in our world today.
It challenges us to think about how we foster a sense of belonging in our own communities.
Yeah.
But, the story doesn't shy away from the consequences of disobedience.
Right.
Exodus 12.2830 describes the devastating impact on those who ignored God's instructions.
It does.
It really underscores that our choices matter.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder that while we have free will, there are universal laws at play.
Okay.
Ignoring those laws often has consequences.
Right.
It prompts us to consider what warnings we might be ignoring in our own lives, what wisdom we might be overlooking.
And then we had the Exodus itself.
Yeah.
Exodus 12.3136 paints a picture of the Israelites leaving in haste, carrying their unleavened dough.
Right.
Even receiving provisions from the Egyptians.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine the chaos?
Absolutely.
The uncertainty of that moment?
It must have been both terrifying and exhilarating.
Yeah.
They're leaving behind the familiar, the comfortable,
Right.
to embark on a journey towards something greater, something they believe in. They're stepping into the unknown with faith and courage.
That takes us to Exodus 12.37 and 42, which mentions the 430 years they spent in Egypt. It's not just a number, is it?
No.
I read that the number 30 represents death and 4 represents the world.
Wow.
What do you make of that?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests that these 430 years weren't just about physical oppression.
Okay.
They represent a kind of spiritual death and rebirth. The Israelites had to confront their limitations, their fears, and ultimately their own mortality before they could truly embrace freedom.
So it's about going through a process of transformation, overcoming trials, and emerging stronger on the other side.
Exactly.
Exodus 12.4349 dives into who could participate in Passover, highlighting circumcision as a sign of the covenant. It makes you think about belonging and commitment, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Like, what does that even mean?
It raises questions about what constitutes belonging in our own time.
Oh, okay.
What are the boundaries that define a community?
Yeah.
What are the commitments that bind us together? And how do we navigate the complexities of identity and inclusion in a diverse world?
It's a complex issue.
Yeah,
And I think this text gives us a lot to think about in that regard.
absolutely.
All right, so in Exodus 12.5051, we see the Israelites, having followed God's instructions, finally achieving liberation.
Yes.
What stands out to you about this moment?
I think this is where the themes of faith and obedience come full circle.
Okay.
It's not just about blindly following rules. It's about aligning our actions with our deepest values.
Yeah.
And trusting in a power greater than ourselves to guide us towards freedom and fulfillment.
There's so much packed into these verses.
Yeah.
It's not just a historical account. It's a story about the human experience,
Yes.
with its cycles of challenge and triumph, limitation and liberation.
A story that continues to unfold in our own lives.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this, first part of our deep dive into Exodus chapter 12. What are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should be reflecting on?
Well, I think we've seen how redemption requires active change and a willingness to let go of the old. We've explored the importance of setting boundaries and making choices that protect our well-being.
Right.
And we've seen how even in the face of judgment, there's the possibility of mercy
Yeah.
and a path toward liberation.
I think that's a great place to pause for now.
Okay.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into the symbolism of Passover and its enduring legacy. Welcome back. I'm still thinking about all those rich details in Exodus chapter 12.
Yeah.
We talked about the lamb, the blood on the doorpost, the unleavened bread.
Yeah.
It's obvious these elements were carefully chosen to convey something deeper.
Absolutely. Rituals and symbols have a unique power to connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
They tap into our subconscious, helping us access truth that might otherwise remain hidden.
So let's unpack the symbolism of Passover a bit further. The lamb represents redemption. But what does that actually mean in a practical sense?
Remember, the lamb was a pure and innocent sacrifice offered in place of the firstborn.
Right.
It represents a substitutionary atonement, taking on the consequences that would have otherwise fallen upon the people. This idea of sacrifice, of something precious being given up for a greater good, is like a recurring theme across cultures and throughout history.
It makes me think about the sacrifices we make in our own lives.
Yeah.
The things we give up for the well-being of ourselves or others, whether it's time, comfort, or like personal ambitions,
Right.
those acts of selflessness can lead to growth and deeper connection.
Exactly.
And the blood on the doorposts,
Yeah.
while a bit gruesome,
Mm-hmm.
speaks to the power of protection and boundaries. Right? It's like a visual reminder that sometimes we need to create a clear separation between ourselves and what might harm us.
Right.
So it's about setting healthy boundaries in relationships,
Mm.
making choices that protect our physical and mental health,
Yeah.
or saying no to things that don't align with our values.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating a safe space for ourselves to thrive.
Precisely.
Okay.
Then there's the unleavened bread, symbolizing purity and a fresh start.
Right.
It's a reminder that we sometimes need to let go of the old, the things that are weighing us down,
Yeah.
in order to embrace new possibilities.
It seems like leaven, in this context, represents those negative thoughts,
Yeah.
limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
or harmful habits that hold us back.
Mm-hmm.
Removing it is a powerful act of cleansing, creating space for something new to emerge.
It's about recognizing that growth often requires us to confront and let go of what no longer serves us.
Right.
It's about embracing the transformative power of change.
Okay, so how does this ancient celebration of Passover connect to our lives today? What can we glean from it that's relevant in the 21st century?
Passover is ultimately a celebration of freedom. Freedom from oppression, freedom from limitations, freedom to embrace a new destiny.
Yeah.
And that's something we can all relate to.
Right, we all have our own Egypts to escape,
Yes.
our own personal struggles, external challenges, maybe even societal systems that hold us back.
It's about recognizing the things that bind us, the things that prevent us from living our fullest lives, and finding the courage to break free.
And celebrating those moments of liberation,
Yeah,
both big and small, along the way.
absolutely.
Whether it's overcoming a personal obstacle, leaving a toxic relationship, or advocating for social justice.
Exactly. Every step towards freedom is worth celebrating.
I like that.
And Passover reminds us that freedom isn't a destination, it's a journey.
Right.
It's an ongoing process of growth, transformation, and liberation.
And it's a journey we don't have to undertake alone.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the Israelites had each other, their community, and ultimately their faith to guide them,
Right.
we too can draw strength from our connections,
Yeah.
our values, and our belief in something greater than ourselves.
What I find really powerful about Exodus is how it reminds us that even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty, there's a possibility of hope, of new beginnings.
It's about having the courage to step into the unknown,
Yeah.
to trust that there's something better waiting on the other side.
And to remember that even in our darkest moments, we're not alone. There's a force, whether you call it faith or hope or simply the resilience of the human spirit that can guide us towards freedom.
This deep dive into Exodus chapter 12 has really highlighted the enduring power of this story.
It has.
It's not just a historical account.
Right.
It's a blueprint for understanding the human experience with its cycles of challenge and triumph, limitation and liberation.
We all have our own Exodus to embark upon, our own journey towards freedom.
So as we wrap up this second part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
let's take a moment to reflect on the themes we've explored. What resonates most with you? What insights are you taking away from this ancient narrative?
What are your own Egypts that you're seeking to break free from? And what resources do you have to help you on that journey?
Those are great questions to consider.
Yeah.
We'll be back with part 3, where we'll delve into the legacy of Passover and explore its relevance in various cultural and religious traditions.
Yeah.
We've really gone deep with Exodus chapter 12, exploring, its layers of meaning, symbolism.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about its lasting legacy. It feels like this story has echoed through history in some pretty powerful ways.
You're right.
Yeah.
The themes of Exodus chapter 12, particularly the Passover celebration, have resonated far beyond their original context.
Okay.
They've influenced religious practices, cultural traditions, even inspired social justice movements across centuries.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Where can we see that influence most clearly?
Well, I think the most obvious connection is Judaism. Passover, or Pesach, remains one of the most important holidays in the Jewish faith. It's a time for families to gather, retell the Exodus story,
Yeah.
and celebrate their ancestors' liberation.
So it's not just a historical event, it's a living tradition
So the living tradition.
that connects generations, reinforces their identity.
Precisely. And beyond the religious observance, the themes of Passover have permeated Jewish culture and thought.
Oh, okay.
The idea of social justice, of fighting for the oppressed,
Right.
is deeply rooted in the Exodus narrative.
Hmm.
Think of figures like Moses,
Yeah.
who stood up to Pharaoh and demanded freedom for his people.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have a responsibility to, speak out against injustice
Yes.
and work towards a more equitable world.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The Passover story also influenced Christianity.
Oh, wow.
Jesus' Last Supper, as described in the Gospels,
Right.
was a Passover meal. Early Christians saw Jesus as the ultimate Passover lamb, sacrificing himself for the redemption of humanity.
Wow, that adds a whole new layer of meaning to the symbolism of the lamb and the concept of sacrifice.
It does,
Yeah.
and throughout Christian history, the themes of Exodus chapter 12 have inspired countless works of art, music, and literature.
Really?
Yeah, the idea of a journey from darkness to light,
Mm-hmm.
from bondage to freedom,
Right.
continues to inspire hope and resilience in the face of adversity.
It's like a universal archetype.
Hmm.
The struggle for liberation,
Yeah.
the triumph of good over evil, the promise of a new beginning.
And what's truly remarkable is that the Passover story has transcended religious boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
inspiring social justice movements throughout history.
Okay.
Think about the struggle of the Israelites for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It resonated with enslaved African Americans,
Oh, wow.
who saw parallels in their own fight for liberation.
So the Passover story became a symbol of resistance
Yes.
and a call to action for those fighting for their own emancipation.
Yes, and that legacy continues today.
Mm-hmm.
The themes of Exodus chapter 12 resonate with any group or individual struggling against oppression, whether political, social, or economic.
I see.
It's a timeless story that speaks to the human yearning for freedom, justice, and a world where all can flourish.
This deep dive has been incredible.
Yeah.
We've gone from deciphering ancient rituals to exploring the impact of the Exodus story on cultures and movements throughout history.
It's a reminder that even ancient texts can be profoundly relevant to our lives today.
Yeah.
They offer us frameworks for understanding the human experience and inspire us to create a more just and compassionate world.
I think you've given our listener a lot to think about.
I hope so.
This idea that the Exodus story isn't just about the past.
Right.
It's a story that continues to unfold in our own lives.
Exactly. We all have our own exodus to embark on, our
Yeah.
own journey towards freedom.
Yeah.
And this ancient story offers us guidance, wisdom, and hope for that journey.
Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a pleasure. I always find new insights when revisiting these ancient texts.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked your own curiosity and inspired you to consider how the themes of redemption, judgment, and freedom resonate in your own life. What are your Egypts that you're seeking to break free from? And what resources do you have to help you on that journey? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking your own liberation. Thanks for joining us.